This is Will Johnson's work on the close reading activity the second time around. I want to point out that he did an excellent job right here explaining the characteristics of each character and using evidence from the text to support his answers. He used his own words to describe the characters, but then he justified those descriptive words by the actions that the characters took in the story. So I was really proud of him for that. Also, let me see, he did a good job there with what the story was ultimately about. We had talked about this in class, this number 2. We had talked about it in class, and we had talked about how they were in search of happiness, and he didn't mention happiness, but he did talk about the decision making that would have then led to the choices, and of course they were making those choices to look for happiness. So I thought that was really great. It wasn't exactly like what he heard in class. It was his own opinion, and it was a good one. So I will count that. When did the story take place? He didn't mention the season or the time period, and by that I mean the season was probably going to be something that he would have been able to figure out from the text. Some of the students had indicated that they thought it was spring because there were cubs, and the time period, some of the students had pointed out that they thought that it was probably in Renaissance time or before, simply because they were kings and rulers of that sort. Where did the story take place? He used the mountainside, the mountaintop, and the older brother's home. And of course, the older brother's home was where the story ended, but then there was also a place in the middle where the younger brother went and lived in a city. And then also I would say that there was forest on the mountainside that they went through. And that's important simply because not every mountain is going to have forest. And so, again, it's very minor detail that he left out there, but it's just something that he might consider thinking about next time. His why question, I thought his why question was really good. He talked about the younger brother's choice, and you could tell that this was a question that he developed himself and that he answered it himself. And then I was really proud of how he answered his number 6, so now what? That was probably the most difficult question for the students because they're not used to comparing things in their own life with what they're reading, and he did a good job of that right here about talking about how he moved from Leland to Greenville. And then he also did a good job right here comparing it to a story he'd read before with the parable of the lost son and story that he was familiar with. So overall, I want to say, Will, that was an excellent job, and I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you took the time to do this, and I'm going to give you a full score of 75%. And I'm proud of you. Thanks, Will.